Hey everybody, have you considered starting a podcast? We here at Screwball highly recommend Podbean for getting your podcast out to a larger audience. Podbean has given us the ability to easily bring you Screwball each and every week on all of your favorite podcast services. Use the link podbean.com/screwball to sign up and save up to 35% annually. You can also use the link podbean.com/pro/screwball to sign up for a business subscription. Happy podcasting. Hey everybody, welcome back to Screwball, a baseball podcast, your home for everything baseball. I'm your host, Mike Lepre, here with my co-host, Frank White.
Hey, how's it going?
This is episode 79 of Screwball, coming into the final weeks of the season here, and it is going to be reflective of our topic this week, that we are starting to get to crunch time for players, crunch time for managers, crunch time for fans. It's getting really, really intense. The wild card races, always, as we talked about last week, are heating up. Divisional races are keeping kind of steady, but the play is looking really good. Had some really good games on Sunday. One particular late Sunday game between the Mets and the Yankees was really one of the more electric games you'll see all season. But, as I mentioned, it is crunch time, and that kind of goes into our topic that Frank brought for us. This week we're going to talk about who could be on the hot seat, which managers could be on the hot seat this year, coming into maybe some contract years, or who, who could be looked at as, maybe they could be losing their job in the offseason. So I'll let Frank lead off as we usually do, since it's his topic. And so who are you thinking, with the managers, who do you think could be really, really sitting on the hot seat, or the hottest of seats?
Yeah, obviously coming down the stretch, there's some teams that have underperformed for sure. I go along with some teams who kind of performed how they were expected to, but, their expected performance was not good. So some guys, I think, to really mention, obviously you're going to start with some of the biggest teams. You got the Yankees, Aaron Boone, coming in a contract year. With the Yankees is up and down and question marks all over the place. Is he on the hot seat? Probably, unless the Yankees do some sort of late run. And even that late run in previous years, Joe Girardi didn't work. And then to bring up Girardi, is Joe Girardi on the hot seat? I know it's early, but that team was kind of like, hey, we spent some money, let's get good. I don't think he's on the hot seat too much. Would I be surprised? Probably not, but I don't think he's on the hot seat. You got the Mets, hot seat. He just doesn't need to be there. You have a home run team. Not a home run team. I shouldn't say that's a bad phrase, but you have a big time franchise, a team that wants to win, ready to win, a manager ready to win, and you hire kind of no excitement guy.
Right.
It's kind of like I said the same thing when the Giants of the New York Giants for football hired Pat Shurmur. Not that he's not a good coach, he's just not a New York guy.
Right.
You're trying to bring like a smooth, calm guy to New York. It's just like that's not you need that Rex Ryan, your Bobby Valentine. You need that ruckus.
Yeah.
I guess you got Torrey. He kind of settled things down with the Yankees, but that was one out of the 50 that they had. They had Billy Martins and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Lupinella.
Yeah, I think the Mets need to go get somebody different. I just don't think that's the right move there. It's just not enough. This doesn't fit New York kind of move. Not veteran enough.
I know what you mean.
But we also go with that is the Padres and Tingler. Mm-hmm. He's another one. The team's ready to go, and it's an exciting team. And you've seen last year, he was like, yeah, my guy shouldn't have swung there and stuff like that. It's like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. So I think he's on the hot seat for sure. Mm-hmm. Even if the Padres somehow make the playoffs, even unless they go all the way, he's in the hot seat. And then some other teams you can look at. Twins for sure. Yep. They underperformed. They're unbelievably bad.
They're in last, right?
Yeah, they're just not good all year. Never even been good at one point. Mm-hmm. You can look at, some bad teams who are kind of expected to be bad, but are bad.
Right.
The Orioles, not that the guy has much of a chance, but they're starting, their idea is, hey, our rebuild's kind of starting to, you're going to see it now. So should we get a guy that we kind of want to be part of that? Mm-hmm. You might see something like that. Any of those teams that aren't that great, any of them could pull a trigger. Marlins going to go Don Mattingly. I don't think he'll be around. The Nationals, could they go Dave Martinez? I doubt it. They just won too recent. Like I said, the Phillies. The Braves, I think they're not going anywhere there. In the National League, in the NL Central, I should say, the Cubs aren't going anything with David Ross. The Cardinals, Mike Schilt, could that be a move? Possibly. they usually don't force anybody out the door. For the Cardinals, they usually give you a lot of time, so I don't think they'll do that, but you never know. And the NL West, like I said, we got the Padres. Dodgers ain't going nowhere. Giants aren't going nowhere. The Diamondbacks, again, one of the bad teams. I think the Diamondbacks, definitely are going to be in the coaching search because they underperformed a lot more. Even though they're not great, but they underperformed.
To an extreme degree.
Yeah. And then the Rockies, I don't think so. So, for the most part, I think you're talking the Yankees, the Mets, the Twins, the Padres, maybe the Cardinals, and then some teams that are kind of rebuilding. Maybe the Orioles are ready to go in a different direction. We've seen that with the Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like, hey, we're getting better prospect-wise. Let's get a manager who's a veteran manager who's he cheated, but is known to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And look what happened. So maybe the Orioles decided to do that.
Right.
And they go that direction. And another guy, really, I think, believe it or not, I think the Blue Jays, Montoya. I believe it's Montoya.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They kind of been all right all year till right now. They're red hot. But if they miss the playoffs, that's another one. That team's young and exciting, and he just doesn't give that fit in kind of excitement. So I could see possibly them going a different direction unless the Blue Jays make the playoffs and everyone loves them over there.
Yeah. I think that pretty much covers it. Minnesota obviously is a glaring problem because they were in some realms, projected to win the Central or at least compete.
Playoff bound.
Yeah. The Yankees were, by a lot of accounts, supposed to be World Series favorites, supposed to be at least favorites far and away. They're in fourth, so Boone's got a problem there. Mets, and some of these teams do have had some adversity. COVID is a thing. Injuries happen. Things happen in a season. You can't control everything. But, the Mets are underperforming. They're fighting for 500. They're a team that really a lot of people thought was really going to compete for that Eastern division, or at least compete for a wild card or something. Padres have underperformed. They let what could be one of the probably still the best division in baseball, just about. They let that slip away.
But the Padres have one of the most talented teams in all of baseball.
They're
not even close to. Well, they're close to a wild card, but that shouldn't be.
No, they should be fighting for the division. Really, you couldn't expect the Giants to be playing how they are, but the Giants are only 2 games better than the Dodgers. You got to be playing with the Dodgers. That's what you came into the season wanting to do, and you're not even there. You're not even close to them, really.
No, you're 15 games behind the Dodgers.
Yeah, and that's the team you want to be right there with. So them. You could say Boston, but they had low expectations coming to the season, and they're not going to get rid of Cora. You could talk about, like you said, the Cardinals could potentially be a thing. But, even if it wasn't for the Braves' recent resurgence and having them lead in the division, for a while, there could have been a hot seat job there because, that NL East division has really not been good, and they were supposed to be one of the best divisions in baseball. So if it hadn't been for low competition and the fact that the Braves came on strong at the end, that could have been a job that you could look at, but they'll be fine with that. But yeah, what you said basically are all the teams that you could see hot seat problems, and I think justified for a lot of them. Even the Blue Jays could see, they're really, really hot, but people forget for most of the season they were just kind of, with guys like Vlad who could be an MVP, Simeon who's had quite the comeback year, guys like Lourdes Gurriel, Teoscar Hernandez. Really, the whole offense is pretty damn good. You have Robbie Ray as a Cy Young candidate and all that stuff, but like you said, does he fit? I don't know. Maybe he's the reason they're having this sudden resurgence and they're suddenly in the wild card spot. I don't know. You could credit it to him, or you could say, well, they'd be in the division race if we had someone else. So, we'll see what happens with some of these teams. Some contracts are up, some they could just let them go. Or even, like you said, too, there's some of these teams that could just look at a new manager because all of a sudden they're starting to get good. And it's like, well, we want, the Orioles, we don't need Brandon Hyde, who's yelling at Robbie Ray for whatever. We don't need guys like that. We could use a Buck Showalter type guy that can lead us to, somewhere.
Something, another one you could really look at is really the Astros. I don't think Dusty Baker has a contract next year.
No, I think you're right.
So what do they do?
Well, listen, we're big Dusty Baker guys. I'm signing him back.
Yeah,
there's no question.
Francona with the Indians, I think he stepped away. What happened
Yeah.
there? Does he step away? Does he step away for good now? The Indians bring him back. Or the Guardians, Cleveland, whatever you want to call The Orioles can go, try getting a veteran manager, one ready to roll kind of guy. There's a couple surprise ones you could say. Like I said, I think the Phillies, maybe the Cardinals are more surprising hot seats. Maybe you'd say, but then you got Padres and Yankees, Mets, Twins. I think those are pretty much
those are the big
open
ones. Yeah.
right now. It just matters what teams are. If you're the Pirates, are you ready to get rid of your manager to make that move now, or you want to wait another year or two? Orioles, are you ready to do it right now, or do you want to wait a year or two? Tigers seem to do it, and they kind of kept somewhat competitive. The Mariners, I wouldn't be surprised maybe to see even the Mariners get rid of theirs. Is that the guy they want leading when this team gets good? Because the team's in the wild card hunt right now. If they make the wild card, no, they're not getting rid of it. If they miss the wild card, they might get rid of him going, hey, we're pretty good now. Let's get our guy we want to be good with.
And we're just going to get better with Kalanick and whatever.
Yeah, so it's some of them teams that aren't supposed to be that great, they're tough ones, but the teams that are supposed to be good, I mean, they're hot seats for sure. And you're gonna see some moves here. You probably have 4, I would say maybe 3 to 4 jobs open.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. And I think the New York jobs are the hottest too, because in New York mentality, you just don't take that kind of, not that the Yankees are ever having a losing season, they're actually technically a winning season, but the Yankees, like, World Series or bust essentially, and the Mets with this new owner, he could be like a guy that's like World Series or bust. And for a lot of Mets fans, it's getting to that point where they want to be there.
Yeah, they have enough talent where they really should be deep playoffs.
Yeah.
They should be at least in the NL Central. NL championship game. NLCS. Yeah. But they're not even. They're 500.
Which is, nowhere near where their expectations were at. So yeah, you could see that. They could see them moving. They could do a lot of things. There's a lot of managers out there, ex-players that are looking to get a managerial job. There's a lot of places you could go.
Yeah.
So
and the Mets definitely, and they're up for grab with GM too. So you get a new GM, you get a new coach, put them together at the same time makes sense as well.
Yeah, and you could expect Cohen to make calls like that. Maybe even if it might be a quick trigger finger like Steinbrenner used to be, but I think it might be better for the franchise to have a guy like that. I think the Mets could benefit from a guy like that just doesn't just let things linger, and then all of a sudden you're rebuilding again.
Yeah, you're just too late to the party.
Yeah, so we'll see. Like I said, I think those are the hottest seats. I think Padres definitely got to look at, and we'll see where things go from there. You could see surprise things happen, like you said, with the Cardinals, and I brought it up even earlier when we were talking off the air, but Joe Madden with the Angels. Do the Angels have enough all of a sudden and just say enough games? But they had some adversity with guys like Trout not playing all year. Basically, Rendon didn't play all year, so their pitching staff already isn't good. So that could be a surprise thing too. But there's options out there, and there's like I said, there's managers that want to still manage, and there's ex-players that are looking to get in. They're hungry, so we'll see what happens. And what?
Giambi.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah.
Some guys like that who are kind of sniffing around the game to get back in, coaching wise, and then you get guys like Buck Showalter, who belongs in the game. So there's a bunch of top guys, then there's always some sleeper guys. Miguel Cairo who's out there, and guys like that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, the last few weeks of the season here are definitely going to be the telling signs too. That could really shift the guy's job security. So with that, let's move on to the news segment of the show. Quite a bit of, kind of like how we talked about, the last week or two, statistical news. There's some big stuff here. So number one, on Sunday, Max Scherzer became the 19th pitcher in MLB history to record his 3,000th career strikeout. He struck out Eric Hosmer for the 3,000th, and I believe it was his 6th strikeout of the game. Scherzer almost made further history by throwing a perfect game, but the perfect game came to an end in the 8th inning, and Scherzer's career now is likely headed to Cooperstown if it wasn't already before.
Yeah.
I don't know what his career ERA or anything like that was. I didn't do too much research on him before but 3,000 strikeouts in today's game is pretty good.
Yeah, and he's got the no-hitter, right? 20 strikeout game.
Yep.
He also tied another record in that game. He got his 3rd immaculate inning in his career.
That's right. Yeah.
So he tied that.
He's got some Cy Youngs, I think.
Yeah, World Series.
Yeah, so he's got some accolades,
Yeah. So that's a big moment for him in his long career at this point.
Yeah, I think he's been in the league 13, 14 years. And
they come up with the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, so there you go. Number 2, another no-hitter was thrown. On Saturday, the Brewers tossed a combined no-hitter against the Indians, the 9th of the season, setting an all-time record. The Indians also became the first team in history to be no-hit 3 times in a season. First was Carlos Rodon on April 14th. Second was Wade Miley on May 7th. And finally against the Brewers on Saturday. Corbin Burns tossed 8 no-hit innings with Hader closing the game out in the 9th. So, yes, 9 no-hitters this year. Sets a record that was set back in like the late 1800s. And Indians set their own record, unfortunately for them, about being no-hit 3 times. So, congrats to the Brewers and Corbin Burns. They continue to have an amazing year all around on their team. So, they make, like I said, they make number 9 on the year.
Yeah. Yep, 9 no-hitters, and the Indians were a third of them.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's just... And I think the Rangers had 2, and someone else had... But the Mariners had 2?
Yeah, I believe so.
Jesus Christ. But yeah, anyway, so, congrats to them, and unfortunately, the Indians are part of that now, too. Number 3, the MVP race is heating up in the AL. So, Shohei Ohtani and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. are the clear frontrunners for the AL MVP at this point, as Ohtani currently leads the league in home runs and slugging percentage, while he also touts a 2.97 ERA as a pitcher with 135 strikeouts in 112 innings. Vlad Jr., on the other hand, currently sits leading the AL in batting average, on base, OPS, runs, hits, total bases, and OPS plus. He's also close in batting average, RBIs, and home runs. He's chasing the Triple Crown realistically.
Well, he's tied home runs now. He had a home run yesterday.
Right. So
he's tied for home runs.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, you got to realistically look at a Triple Crown season for him if the Blue Jays as a whole keep hitting like this. So will the Blue Jays continue their winning ways, and will that help Vlad propel himself over Ohtani? Because a lot of people are going to vote for Ohtani because of the two-way player thing. But now with the Blue Jays, if they make the playoffs, all of a sudden now you're like, wait a minute, you take Vlad off that team, it's a different team.
Yeah, you take Ohtani off the Angels, they're still missing the playoffs.
They're still sub 500.
Ohtani's going to win the MVP because they love him. They just fell in love with him. I think he could have had a 5-year ERA as a pitcher this year, and he would have won MVP. The writers and around baseball, and for good reason. He's a great player, and he's doing stuff that we haven't seen, since Babe Ruth.
Yeah, but 100 years.
I think Vlad's also putting up years, or a year that's not been seen from a guy who's 23 years old.
Yeah.
So it'll be close. I mean, I think if Vlad gets the Triple Crown, I can't see how you don't give him the MVP.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that's the clincher. Like, what are you going to say?
And if they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, but that should be an exciting race here down the stretch as well. Some news I have here: Mets and Yankees. Exciting game yesterday. They get into a bench clearing, skirmish, talking back and forth. This came because Taijuan Walker was tipping pitches. The Yankees seen that he was tipping pitches. Someone from the Yankees dugout was whistling when they were seeing it. No, this isn't cheating. No, this isn't the Astros. No, this isn't the Red Sox. That's more clean baseball. You tip your pitches. They pick up on it. Usually it's just you tell them when this happens, this pitch is coming. They whistled out at times. This is not exactly what happened either. This is not confirmed or anything. This is what the allegation was, that they would whistle out when, if he moved this way, it was a curveball. If he moved this way, it was a fastball. So the hitters were more aware. Mets got, found this out, or think they found it out, changed it, and the players got a little upset. When Lindor hit a home run yesterday, he showed a whistle sign. Then Stanton hit a home run, stopped, pretty much dead stop at second base, looked at Lindor, said, cut the crap, no one wants to hear it, and, we didn't do anything wrong, and continued on his way. Lindor backed off. Other Mets got upset. Stanton went to the dugout, benches cleared, and then all of a sudden Baez and Lindor won the fight now that the big mammoth man was in the dugout. But when he was standing there at shortstop face-to-face with Lindor, there doesn't seem to be much of an argument.
No, not much to say, yeah.
But, yes, the Yankees, is the whistling part maybe a touch beyond the normal process?
Sure.
Could be, if that's true, but still not cheating. Electronically stealing signs, using equipment, technology, having someone's job stand out in center field, that's cheating. This is more, hey, you're telling us what's going on, we're going to use it.
Right.
And like I said, is the whistle part, you really want to break that down? Is that,
Could it be seen as Bush League?
Is that one of those unwritten rule kind of things? Not that it's unwritten, but more of like a, hey, you just don't do that part.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you've seen teams in the past certainly look at the intentional balk so that they can't steal signs. Guys on second base, they balk and they get them to third so they can't steal signs. Guys have little things. I seen earlier in the year, I think it might have been the Astros. The guy could look in and see what the catcher was throwing. He'd look left for a breaking ball. He'd look right for a fastball. It's just they didn't whistle, but the same thing applied. The guy was tipping, and signs were stolen, and they didn't use a camera or nothing. So, like you said, maybe the whistling was too far, but
it's not much more than one of your unwritten rules getting broken.
Right.
Running across the mound or anything like that. So cheating, no. Tipping pitches, great. If you can find it out, use it.
Mm-hmm.
No problem with that. It's the electronic stealing it and stuff like that. That's a problem. Mm-hmm. And the Yankees, if that's what happened, that's not. There's no issue there. But that was my news here. Something else I had, as you mentioned, you had the Triple Crown. We're coming down to the wire. That's getting exciting and getting close. But also we have a little bit of news come from the Yankees as Torres will be moving to second base, or for shortstop after some of his issues this year at shortstop. So just a piece of news just because of him being one of the uber potential talents in baseball, and the Yankees being a World Series or bust team, they're deciding to make a move here right down the stretch as they're struggling to now move him to second base and kind of revamp their defense. So it's definitely something to take note of, for the Yankees and for the playoff chase.
Yeah, and someone like that who's so young, who still has a lot of potential, could that change his approach to play? Could he feel more comfortable in the field, so now he feels more comfortable at the plate? Things like that affect a guy. So, it's just an interesting little thing you could see. And he is definitely one of the guys, the young guys in the game that could really be a star. So, you never know. But to wrap everything up, number 4, who's doing the best right now? Not much has changed here. The Giants still on the best record in the league at 93-50, and with a win, their next win will clinch them a playoff spot. The Dodgers sit right behind them at 91-53. They are also obviously then close for a playoff spot. Over in the AL, the Rays still on the best record at 89-54, and there's no one really close to them. So the Astros the next closest at 83-59. Dodgers still on the best run differential in the league at plus 234, and the Orioles still on the worst at minus 257. So that's your best, and I guess with the Orioles' worst team in the league.
Yeah. Some hot teams I want to mention here. We got the Blue Jays, Royals, Rangers, Brewers, Giants, and Dodgers, all playing pretty good baseball here over the last 7 to 10 days. Some cold teams we're looking at. The Yankees been struggling. The Indians, the A's, Phillies, and Padres. Some teams not playing so good over the last 7 to 10 days. Mm-hmm. So, and some of these teams on the cold list here are, in the hunt.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of make a break right now, as we've been saying for the last 2 weeks. But definitely, I mean, you're really coming down to 2 weeks left of the season. So, one game can, end your season.
Yeah. Yep. So. Absolutely. You got to treat every game. If you're really on the bubble, you got to treat every game like a playoff game. So there's a lot of teams sitting right there.
Yep.
But we'll see what happens. So let's move on to who's hot and who's not, the hottest and coldest players of the week. Number 1, Max Scherzer was the NL Player of the Week for, good reason. So I only have one batter here for the hot list, and it's Andrew Benintendi, who won the AL Player of the Week. He batted .480 over the last week with a .920 slugging and a .1401 OPS. Number 2, Juan Soto, batted .571 with an .857 slugging and a .1547 OPS. Number 3, Miguel Cabrera, batted .550 over the last week, .650 slugging and a .1200 OPS. I believe at one point, I think he had 9 straight plate appearances with a hit or something ridiculous like that.
Like the oldest player to do so, or oldest player 80 years to do so, something. I'm sure there was Ty Cobb or Babe Ruth or Honus Wagner, somebody up there slapping the ball around for a while. Pete Rose even. So.
Yeah, probably, yeah. So, yeah, he can still hit for sure. Number 4, Teoscar Hernandez, batting .462 over last week with an .808 slugging and a .1370 OPS. And number 5, Nelson Cruz, batted .455 with a .955 slugging and a .1455 OPS over the last week.
Yeah, it's pretty good hitting. Some guys I want to add to that list: Alex Bregman playing well, really ever since he came off the IL. Bryce Harper pushed himself to really the forefront of the NL MVP race, and Mookie Betts playing well. After pretty much a down year, an injury-filled year for the most part, he's starting to play well at this point. Some pitchers that are pitching well, obviously Corbin Burns, part of a no-hitter. Eric Lauer for the Brewers, pitching really well. Marco Gonzalez, he's been pitching pretty good. Joe Ryan, I believe, had a no-hitter into 6-7 innings for the Twins. And Giovanni Gallegos, taking over for Alex Reyes in the closer role for the Cardinals, has been pitching great. I think he had 4 saves just last week. So those are some guys there really pitching well. And a couple of these for playoff-bound teams. Again, a couple Brewers pitchers, a Mariners pitcher, and a Cardinals relief pitcher here. So, they're kind of carrying their team as best they can, pitching-wise, to, get to a postseason and get to a high seed.
Yeah, definitely. With that, let's move on to the cold players of the week. Number 1, Trent Grisham, 0 average, 0 slugging, and .056 OPS, so for his last 17, so I guess he just has 1 walk, smushed in there.
Not great.
No. Alberto Mondesi, number 2, .053 average with a .211 slugging and a .310 OPS over the last week. Number 3, Carlos Santana, an .080 average, a .200 slugging, and a .315 OPS over the last week. Number 4, David Fletcher, 100 average over the last week with a 100 slugging and a .282 OPS. And number 5, Luis Arias, 105 average with a .211 slugging and a .428 OPS over his last week.
Yeah, that's definitely not where you want to be.
No.
Some other players here that are been cold: Matt Chapman for the A's, Will Myers, Kevin Pillar, Kyle Schwarber, and Austin Riley. And every one of those guys in a playoff race. Every one of those cold guys I just named are in the mix of a playoff race. So
Not
obviously
great.
can cause an issue. If you're trying to chase down a playoff spot and one of your better players is cold right now.
Right.
So some pitchers who have been struggling: Savali for the Indians got beat up a little bit.
Yeah.
Richard Rodriguez
For the Pirate or the
for the Braves.
Yeah.
Had 2 losses, I believe, this past week, and like 8 earned runs or 7 earned runs, something pretty crazy. Brad Brock, I believe, had an infinity ERA this week. I believe he tried pitching once, and I think he gave like 4 runs. Bumgarner not pitching well, and Taijuan Walker been struggling really of late. Last almost 2 months for Taijuan Walker. Not struggling bad, but
not like how he
mid
was.
to high 4s ERA, where it's like this guy's just not quite right. Maybe the tip-in pitches that we've seen the Yankees and Mets cause an issue could be part of the reason.
Right. Yeah.
But those are some pitchers here who have been struggling of late. And again, Rodriguez with the Braves, Bumgarner with the Diamondbacks. Obviously, that doesn't mean anything. That's just for his own career at this point.
Yeah, really.
But you got Rodriguez for the Braves and Walker with the Mets. These guys are in the playoff hunt, so you kind of need them as best as you can. And then you got obviously just Bumgarner's a big name.
Yeah.
Kind of expect him to keep pitching relatively well. Kind of struggling on and off all year.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Like you said, some of these guys are just playing for their own career and their own stats because, like Bumgarner at this point with the Diamondbacks, it's not like...
Or for a trade next year.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
Just how it goes.
Yeah, hopefully they pick it up. Especially a guy, like I said, like Bumgarner, who was really, really an all-star. And
pushing for a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah. He was the savior of some of those World Series, specifically, the 2014 one or so. He was like the savior.
Yeah. But yeah, they get to the next part. We go into some injuries here. We've seen Wander Franco placed on the IL in the mix of an on-base streak, record-breaking on-base streak. Chris Sale striking by the COVID for the Red Sox been having. That's terrible for him because he was just, come back and pitching pretty well. The Red Sox obviously need him as bad as anyone needs anybody.
Yeah.
Zach Britton, Tommy John, see you later. Next year, at the end of the next year, they expect him to be back. Michael Brantley, day-to-day. Need him healthy for the Astros want to do anything. I believe Matt Chapman, day-to-day as well for the A's. Again, another guy they need if they want to try doing anything.
Yeah.
Rowdy Tellez for the Brewers, who's been pretty much unsung hero kind of for the Brewers, placed on the IL. Danny Duffy done for the year with elbow pain.
Yep.
So a little move that the Dodgers made. Actually, it was a little move. They stole him from the Royals, and obviously now he has issues. They didn't really pitch with the Dodgers, so I guess the Royals actually ended up winning that deal.
Technically, yeah.
And Blake Snell left to start yesterday after 11 pitches with some issues. So we'll see. He was pitching really well over the last month or so, and the Padres are definitely need all hands on deck if they want to do something.
Yeah.
So that's possibly a big loss for them. On the other side of the injury news, George Springer, yes, is playing. He will DH. Has been the consensus for the rest of the year. He won't be in the outfield. If he is, it'll be late in the playoffs and a little bit. They don't want to have his legs, and he keeps having issues. They don't want him out on the field. They want his bat. They need his bat more than they need him in center field. Is their idea.
Right.
So to look out for that. Not really injury related, but kind of injury related.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We have Judge left yesterday's game day to day with dizziness. He played today, hit a home run, big home run for the Yankees, but something to take note of because we also have Frazier with the Yankees who has a dizzy problem, and he might not ever come back.
Yeah, like he might never play baseball again. Yeah.
So I don't know if it's just a freak thing or if there was just something weird yesterday with Judge. Garrett Cole was day to day. He is expected to pitch tomorrow, Tuesday. So by the time this episode goes up, we'll know if he pitched good or not.
Yeah.
Shane Bieber starting a rehab assignment. That's just a big name. Got to see him back. Brandon Nimmo expected to be returned soon for the Mets. Could help them a lot.
Yeah.
Jack Flaherty's still pushing to be back with the Cardinals one game out of the playoffs. He can come back and pitch once, maybe down the regular season, could help them big time. And then into a playoff push or into the playoffs, if they make it, would be huge for them.
Yeah.
Tyler Naquin, day to day for the Reds, another team pushing for a playoff spot. Kershaw is supposed to be activated today to pitch. Just going to get ready here for the playoffs. And Tony Gonsolin for the Dodgers was expected to be activated, if not activated already, in the next day or two to pitch. So Dodgers getting healthy here at the right time.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that definitely helps them. I mean, I know Kershaw's had his notable postseason issues, but having a guy like that back, a veteran guy, to help with the playoff push, always helps. Not that the Dodgers are lacking any pitching this year. They lose Trevor Bauer and they get Max Scherzer, so they're not really lacking in the pitching department.
Yeah, and Julio Urias turns into Cy Young candidate.
Yeah, and we already have Walker Buehler was a Cy Young candidate all year, so
you
add Kershaw, and it's like, okay, looking okay.
But yeah, there's some injury guys, and most of them guys are, again, playoff bound or playoff race teams. That's why I brought a lot of these up, because they're they have a say on this year and next year and the future, because you make the playoffs this year, what does it do for the team? You miss the playoffs this year, what does it do for the team? It just sets off a snowball effect. So,
Right.
But definitely some names to take notice of there. There's some big names there, but nothing too serious. Britton had his issues. But for the most part, it's all kind of like, hey, all right. It's not the worst news in the world.
Right.
But other than that, the last little bit we have here is, of course, our weekly or per episode trivia question we always do. And with the season coming to an end and stats, and everyone's looking at stats, triple crowns and MVPs, I wanted to do this trivia question. That is, who was the last player to have 160 or more RBIs in a single season? I think there's only been 12 seasons, 14 seasons of 160 RBIs or so. A good amount of them coming from the dawn of RBIs. And that's including some years of RBIs before RBIs was an official stat. There's a couple years that had over 160.
Right.
But who was the last one to have 160 or more RBIs in a single season? And the answer is, in 2001, Sammy Sosa had 160 RBIs on the dot for the Cubs.
Wow.
The second to last one, oddly enough, was 1999, when Manny Ramirez had 165 RBIs with the Indians. That makes sense, because the Indians had maybe one of the greatest offenses of all time.
Yeah.
Of course, they didn't win a World Series with that great offense, but they had one of the greatest offenses of all time, including both Alomars, Manny Ramirez, Jim Thome, Albert Bell, Kenny Lofton. Obviously Manny Ramirez himself.
There's a lot of names there.
That's some of the greatest hitters of the 90s and early 2000s right there. So having 165 RBIs makes sense with that good offense, but also kind of surprising because that means there's a lot of other guys who are driving runs in too.
That's true.
Jim Thome and Albert Bell, who's one of the greatest RBI machines of all time, Albert Bell.
It's true.
In a short career, over 1,000. I think he has 1,200 RBIs in like 10 years, which would be average about 120 a year, which is incredible.
Yeah, that is. So, that's nuts.
But yeah, so who was the last player to have 160 RBIs or more in a single season? 2001, Sammy Sosa had 160 RBIs for the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, he was just, golly, with those steroid eras was just insane statistics. He had a lot of home runs, a lot of RBIs, high averages. God, the game was so offensive, around that time. It's crazy. Granted, you had a lot of great pitching, but, man, some of the offensive numbers is just mind-boggling to that era.
Those years were when these guys got hot, they got just incredibly hot.
Yeah,
like Sosa, I think, had 20-something home runs in the month of August that one year. That's just berserk.
Yeah, like that's
that many home runs. That's a great season for somebody. He had it in a month.
Yeah, it's like
That's just how it went though. But
Ball's like a big beach ball coming in, you know.
yeah, and that never missing it and crushing a ball.
Mm.
So, but yeah, I just wanted to bring that up with us talking about the Triple Crown race and some stats and RBIs and a bunch of things coming up. No, we don't have anybody really on the verge of that. I think Jose Abreu's leading the whole league with RBIs with 105. Go figure.
Sounds
Jose
about
Abreu
right.
led the league. This would be the third year in a row.
Mm-hmm.
He'll lead the AL if he holds on. So 160, not quite getting there this year. Would I be surprised to see 160 out of somebody? No, in the near future.
No.
Teams like the Blue Jays set up and maybe a team like the Dodgers and even the Yankees, if they can figure out something over there. There's some teams set up offensively that could really drive some runs in.
Yeah.
And really cause quite the ruckus.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Like you said with this Blue Jays team, the way they've been hitting lately is like, oh my God. They have guys with a lot of RBIs. I think they have like 300 RBI guys. Simeon, Vlad, and someone else, Teoscar Hernandez. I don't know. Yeah, looking pretty good. And, I don't think anyone will ever touch the RBI record, but I guess you never say never. That'd be impressive. They would need like 192 RBIs, right? To break it.
191, I think he had, 1930?
Yeah.
31.
With less games, technically. So.
That's never missing a chance for a run.
Mm-hmm. Basically.
And then making your own RBIs by hitting yourself in.
Yeah. You basically had to have an RBI every day plus some. Every game, I should say.
Yeah,
so.
like 1.1 RBI every game.
I mean, Jesus Christ.
Even have 1.1 hit every game is very, very impressive.
Yeah, exactly. If you get a hit every day, I mean.
That's just making all your hits count. Every hit was an RBI.
Yeah. And you have a good enough team to where people were on. So.
Yeah, no one else is knocking them in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just
we
you.
We didn't score runs unless Hack hits them in.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, better get Hack up there.
Yeah.
It's like how LeMahieu was the last 2 years, but anyway, so yeah, that's kind of all I got for this episode. It was just recently first weekend of football. I know everyone was kind of really excited for that, but I think baseball put on a good show with the Yankees and the Mets. Proves that baseball can, I guess, compete with even with the first week of football where it's at peak excitement, until you get into playoff time, so it was good to see that there was a game like that televised and I think it just can only help baseball to have stuff like that go on. So if you're a big football person or just a big sports person and your football team won, good for you. If your fantasy football team won, good for you. But hopefully, we see some good baseball here to finish and some good football to carry us and a lot of sports fans into the winter when we have, really just that and hockey and basketball coming too. So we'll see what happens and hopefully the wild card races get even hotter than they already are, which is pretty hard to believe. So, like I said, that's all I got. I don't know if you got anything else to close out with, or if that's kind of all you got.
Yeah, we talked about it for a couple weeks now. A lot of sports picking up. College football going nuts already. NFL just started with a great weekend for them. It's not over yet. The Raiders play tonight, Monday Night Football in Vegas with the fans against the Baltimore Ravens and that team. Well, hopefully the Raiders win.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Good team this year, and they're going to surprise some people, and should be a good game. So I'm excited to go watch that. But for baseball, I mean, we're coming right down to, if you're not the daily fan, it's time to start turning your TV on because, once that cool air starts hitting, you know what it means. That means playoff baseball and just intensity all the time.
Yeah, and you really, the only thing is you don't have many divisional races, so. You gotta look for the wild card. I guess if you're a fan of the Rays or White Sox or something, you're fine.
Yeah,
you don't
but
care.
Hey, listen, wild card right now. You can have 3 playing games.
Mm.
You have 3 playing games to figure out who's gonna have the 1-game playoff wild card. To see who's gonna play the LDS or NLDS. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
Every year we always have that, and it never ends up happening. But might be this year because of COVID and all that crap. Just makes sense that this would just be historically a mess.
Yeah.
It
There's
makes
definitely
sense that there's going to be a playing game or 2 playing games just to get to the 1-game playing game.
Yeah, there's definitely a good shot of that with the way both wild cards look. It's not just the one. Look at the NL wild card. The Cardinals are coming up strong now.
Cardinals are game out. The Phillies still there. The Mets are getting hot. I'm still hanging around. The Padres are there. The Reds are there.
Yeah,
it's a mess.
It's insane.
It's the mess you want to see.
Yeah.
Unless you're one of those teams. If you like that team, you kind of want to be in the mess, but you like to just be like, yeah, I'm the Dodgers, and I'm 15 games up in the wild card.
Yeah,
I'm
just
here now.
looking down at everyone. Yeah.
But you like to at least be in the playoff hunt if you're a team like the Reds, who haven't been that great recently. The Mariners, of course. A's fans, they've been pretty good here, but playoff hunt. So there's some teams here. The Mets, of course. Phillies, teams that are hungry for playoffs. So
Yeah.
and this is great for their fan bases.
Yeah, absolutely. And Blue Jays, I mean, hell. I mean, I picked them to get a wild card, but not at the expense of maybe the Yankees. But, you know.
Back in Toronto, could they finally make the playoffs? Well, they're in Toronto because last year they made the playoffs and they weren't in Toronto.
Yeah, they're in Buffalo, yeah.
So what a ruckus. But we're going to have a great 2.5 weeks of the regular season, including other sports that are just starting up.
Yeah, so we'll see. It's going to get exciting. It's already been exciting. And then we have playoff baseball coming, so it's just a good time for sports in general. So
yeah, and if you guys remember last year's playoff baseball, Brett Phillips game, I mean, was just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It was just almost you had to go to bed. I know it was like 1 in or whatever. I made sense you had to go to bed, but that game could have been 1 in the afternoon, and it'd be like I gotta go lay down. It was just too much all at once.
Too much you had to handle on that one last play.
Yeah.
It was like
up and down and up and down and up and then like oh no, oh my god, oh here you go, get up, oh here he is. So it's just a mess. So that's just how playoff baseball games are all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I look forward to that. Look forward to some football, and then basketball and hockey season's coming too for those fans. So
yeah.
So with that, like I said, that's all I got. So unless you got one final note, let's get out of here.
No, that's it. So that's all I got, and go Raiders.
There you go. So with that, thank you guys for listening. You can catch this podcast on Apple Podcasts as well as Google Podcasts and Spotify. You can listen on our regularly updated YouTube channel as well as our website, screwball.podbean.com. You can follow me on Twitter at @RealMikeLepre. You can follow me on Instagram at Mike Lepre.
And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at FDubs10.
You can follow our official Screwball Twitter at ScrewballPod. You can follow our official Screwball Facebook at ScrewballPod. No E in Screw. And that's it from us, guys. We'll see you next week.
Yep, take care.